Hey there, welcome to the sermon preview for this week here with Pastor Lance once again. And we are going to take a peek at the passage of Scripture for our sermon this week. So we are in our Refined series, for our theme for this year of Refined. And for this series, we're looking at different people or figures in Scripture that have gone through some kind of refining process. So, Lance, what is our passage that we're looking at this week?
So this week's passage, 1 Kings 19, 1 through 13.
Okay, so in this passage, we're looking at Elijah, the prophet Elijah. And when we look at this passage, there's some important context that we have to understand that happens before this in 1 Kings 18 to really grasp why this passage is important. So, Lance, give us a little bit of a summary on what happened in kind of that last half of 1 Kings 18.
Yeah, so Elijah is challenging the prophets of Baal. They're they're up on Mount Carmel, and that's when fire comes down from heaven, consumes the offering that's on Elijah's altar, and it's that story where there's water on that offering, and like all the water soaked up and everything like that. Obviously, nothing happens to the altar of the Baal prophets.
Right. Yeah. So, it's a pretty incredible story, really. Like when you, I would encourage you when you're preparing for this sermon, actually go back and read chapter 18. It's really pretty incredible. And what really sticks out to me in the chapter 18 in relation to this is how faithful God was to show up in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Elijah wasn't the one that sent down fire. Like, God was the one that sent down fire, consumed the entire altar, right? The water, everything. It was, totally disintegrated. And so Elijah saw God's faithfulness. He saw that he provided in that moment for him what he needed to show his glory to the nation of Israel in this moment, right? And so when we look now into chapter 19, we see that Ahab talks to Jezebel and says, hey, this is what Elijah has done. He killed all the prophets of Baal, and instead of Jezebel saying, oh my word, maybe he was right. Maybe God is the true God and Baal is a false prophet or a false God. No, she doesn't do that. She says, basically, I swear to kill Elijah, within a day or so, right? Yeah. And so what we see now is this man who just experienced this incredible thing from God. In verse 3 of this passage, he says, then he was afraid, he arose and ran for his life, right? So we have a man who saw this incredible thing from God that is now running in fear, okay? And we see that he continues to run in fear. He gets all the way to Beersheba, which is like kind of the opposite end of the promised land there. And he goes out into the wilderness in this, just completely alone, leaves his servant, and he settles under a broom bush and prays a prayer that says, God, I might as well die. Yeah. Right? Which is really, if we look at this, we don't often recognize that there are people in Scripture that get to the point where they feel so alone, so afraid, so desperate that they just want things to end. Yeah. Right. So it's kind of there's a sombering moment in this passage of Elijah saying, it's enough now, Lord, take away my life. What's ironic about this is Elijah actually never dies. He's the one that goes up into a chariot of fire, which is so cool. Like, God obviously had something more planned for him, and I think he's probably glad that God didn't answer that prayer with okay, but more or less with this passage and kind of what I want you to be reflecting on is we see that Elijah is in a great moment of fear, of stress, of exhaustion, of feeling alone. And it's in this moment that he is being refined. God is refining him in his fear. And as you read further, we're not going to get into that in the sermon preview here, but as we read further, we see how God shows up for Elijah and how he leads him through this refinement through fear. And so what I want you to be doing is reflecting on the idea that how has God refined you in a moment of fear? Where have you experienced fear that you have seen God in it and through it, and he is taking you to the other side, and you look back and you say, that's what God was up to. That was his plan all along. So a really can be a heavy passage, but a really powerful passage. And Elijah, just a powerful figure, person throughout Scripture that we can look to be this picture of refinement as we seek that for our own lives. Yep. So I'm excited for Sunday.
I am too. Let's go.
Lance is as well. I hope you are excited as well. So we'll see you here 9:15 Sunday morning.
Yeah.